Hello and welcome. Hey guys, welcome back to Therapy by Craft. My name is Eunice Kim. I am your host. I'm the maker behind Therapy by Craft. I live in Southern California with my husband and my daughter. Yeah, this is where I mostly talk about knitting stuff and just what's been on my mind. Today is Tuesday, March 14th, at what feels like a very early hour of the day. The daylight savings time thing that happens here in the States is, I'm pretty tired, but I have my coffee and I'm excited because I am not going to be doing a regular podcast episode today. I wanted to do a little knit and chat or sit and sip, or I don't know, that's not right. I wanted to have a space on my channel where I could talk to you about things that's not like my whips or my finished objects or anything like that. I have a lot of thoughts about knitting and knitting related things, and even though I'm lucky to have a husband who will listen to all of the things that I geek out about, it's really not that satisfying to me because he doesn't get it. So I wanted to have a space here on this channel to basically make you listen to me instead. So this segment, or this part of my channel, will be called Knitting's Got Me Thinking. And I hope to share with you some of the things that's been on my mind, things about knitting, things related to knitting, things about yarn, things about crafting, and all these other things aside from my regular podcast episodes. If you are interested in what I've been working on and want to know what the latest thing is on my needles, then please feel free to check out my other podcast videos. The next episode I will be sharing about what I've got going on around my neck here, but not today. Today I wanted to talk about how knitting's got me thinking the ways the craft has been very therapeutic for me lately. I've heard a lot of beautiful stories about people who experience depression or anxiety, and they've experienced a lot of comfort from the craft of knitting. And me too, actually. There's so many things about knitting that's amazing, and I love the craft so much, obviously. But what exactly is it about knitting that has been very therapeutic for me? And as I was thinking about this, I was able to identify at least 3 big reasons why knitting has been really life-giving for me, why it's been so comforting in this current season of my life. And I thought I would share that with you. But before I do, a few words for my viewers. This channel is not going to be a therapy channel. I'm not going to be giving out therapy advice. I'm not going to be providing educational information about mental health. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not going to be doling out advice about how you should take care of your mental health. Nothing like that. You're not going to find that here. And here's why. Number 1, I am licensed by the Board of Behavioral Sciences to practice in the state of California. I want to make sure that I'm staying within my scope of practice and not giving out therapy advice or acting like a therapist to anyone who is not living in the state of California. Second reason, therapy is deeply personal. It is deeply, deeply personal. Each person is unique. They are complex. I think the work is really sacred, and the work of therapy is a work of healing. The hope that I have for every person who seeks therapy is that their therapist would walk closely alongside them in a manner that feels really safe, but also challenging in the most appropriate way. I do not want to run the risk of promoting toxic positivity or accidentally validating an experience that you're having that might actually be very harmful for you. So, no, I'm not going to touch that. Number 3 is for the sake of my clients, past, present, and future. Can you imagine logging onto YouTube and seeing your therapist's face on a YouTube video talking about mental health and stuff like that? I think if I were them, I would wonder, oh my gosh, is she talking about me? And no, I just don't want to touch that. Out of my consideration for my clients, I'm just not going to touch on mental health issues, in a general sense. And last but not least, for my own mental health. I play a lot of roles in my life. Therapist is just one of them. And here in this space, as I'm sitting and talking with you, I don't want to come to you as a therapist. I want to come to you as a friend, and I want to come to you as a fellow knitter, a sojourner in this craft of the fiber arts and discovering, the joys of what it is to play with yarn and make things and create things. And that's who I want to be when I approach you. So for all those reasons, I am not going to be giving out therapy advice. This is not going to be a therapy channel, but because I am a therapist, I am willing and I do want to share with you the ways in which knitting and my mental health intersect. So yeah, back to our scheduled programming. So yeah, how has knitting been therapeutic for me these days? Well, I first got introduced to the craft of knitting back when I was in middle school. I was on a bus and I think we were going to like a youth retreat or a youth camp or something like that. I was in middle school, and in the back of the bus was an older girl. I think she was in high school and she was knitting. I can say now that it was like a garter stitch, simple scarf with like chunky yarn. And I was mesmerized. I saw that she was doing this thing in the back of the bus and I just couldn't look away. I was like, oh my God, what is it that she's doing? That looks so fun. And it was mesmerizing. So finally I approached this older girl and I was super intimidated to approach her, but I did. And I said, hey, what are you doing? Can I sit next to you and just watch? And she was so great. She was like, yeah, sure. So I plopped down next to her and she was just knitting away. And I guess I was staring pretty intensely because she then looked at me and was like, do you want me to teach you? Like, do you want to try? Let's pause here for a second. Bless her, right? I mean, I would never give my project to a complete stranger to teach them how to knit, like mid-project. I would pull out a fresh ball of yarn and another pair of needles and say, here, I will cast on some stitches for you and you can learn on this project. But no, she let me use like her actual work in progress to learn how to knit. I'm so thankful for her. Anywho, so I sat there, she sat next to me. She taught me how to do a knit stitch, a basic knit stitch to turn my work. And I did a couple of rows on her scarf and I was hooked. I couldn't, and that was it for me. And I'm so thankful to this person who was kind enough to let this little kid pick up her needles and work on her scarf, because for the next 20 plus years, knitting would come to be a dear comfort for me and really a friend through loss and through grief, through bouts of depression, through major anxiety, especially after my daughter was born. My postpartum anxiety was quite severe. And I'm so, so thankful that I had this to ground me. Lately, the thing that's been the most comforting to me about knitting is that I have full control, that I have every decision-making power whenever it is that I knit. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to get very irritable and just kind of nervous and fidgety and just restless when I can't seem to get a grasp on things, and when I feel like things are just out of my control. Like literally, I cannot control so many things in my life. And at the start of the pandemic, I know I'm not alone when I say that we all felt really out of control. And we all felt like, oh my goodness, like what the heck is happening? We cannot control the pandemic. We cannot control the weather. We cannot control government. We cannot control other people. We cannot control what's being stocked up in the grocery store. It was like one thing after another. I had no power over those things. But here, in knitting, I absolutely had every single decision-making power. I have control over what project I'm gonna knit, what yarn I'm gonna use, the gauge that I want the fabric to be in. I can make a decision about every single part of my project. And that gave me a place to ground myself where I didn't feel like my life was spiraling out of control. Yeah. And it was good. It was good because it started from that one point, right? I can control what's happening on my needles. Here in this space, I have a lot of control. And then I started to notice in other areas of my life, and it kind of rippled out. I can wake up and make the bed. Decide if I want coffee or tea. I can choose how I respond to my husband when I'm angry. I can choose to take a shower today. You know, it just was like a wedge into just the choices that I did have in my life when everywhere else it felt like I had no decision-making power at all. So yeah, that I think is one of the biggest things that knitting has gifted to me. The sense of control and the sense of power. Knowing this, whenever I find myself getting very protective about my knitting time, that's when I think to myself, ooh, Eunice, are you feeling kind of out of control in other areas of your life? Is that why you're coming back to this over and over and over again? And it's a good reflective tool for me too, like knowing all of these things. But yeah, sense of control, the sense of empowerment that comes with knitting, it is a major, major source of comfort for me. The second thing I really love about knitting is the fact that it's tangible. Like I can feel it and it's squishy and I can like smell the wool and like put my face in it. I love that so much. The best things in life often are not tangible, right? So things like love, the things that we value, our relationships, I can't like touch my marriage, you know what I mean? But I can touch my yarn. My job, right, requires a lot of intuition, and I currently don't even have clients. I supervise. As a clinical supervisor, I work with my therapists to make sure that they're being the best therapists to their client. Working with people is not like black and white. Every person is different. Every person has their own story. It's not like a hard science. You know what I mean? Like 2 + 2 does not always equal 4 in the work that I do. And sometimes I just need that. I just need something that is concrete. I need something that I can touch. I need something that I can physically see, something that exists in the world that I can engage with my senses. Like I just need that. There's also tangible evidence of my existence. I know that sounds incredibly existential, but here's what I mean. If I sit down and knit for an hour, at the end of that hour, I have tangible evidence of what I've done in that hour. I can see it with my eyes. I can feel it with my hands. I can shove my face in it if I wanted to. Like, there's evidence of what I've done. It exists in space. It takes up room. It like validates my existence somehow. It validates and brings me comfort. Yeah. And then the last thing that knitting has done for me is a little difficult to articulate, but I'm going to do my best. I am so many things to so many people. And without getting too, without like diving into this too deeply, I think women in particular, we are identified and we are described in relation to other people. So here's what I mean. When you ask somebody, oh, what do you think of this woman? The adjectives that we tend to use are things like, oh, they're very kind, or they're very generous, or, oh, she's a very thoughtful person. She's a great mother. She is a wonderful wife. All of those adjectives are in relation to other people. You're considered to be kind because of how you treat others, right? You're considered to be generous because of the way you give yourself to other people. The biggest roles that I play is wife, mother, therapist, supervisor. Like those are the 4 major roles that I play. Daughter, sister are also included in there. But all of those things are in relation to other people. Now, I love people. I'm an extrovert. I like connecting with people. It's my jam. It definitely is. But especially after my daughter was born and my postpartum anxiety hit really hard, an aspect of my anxiety and an aspect of the depression that hit was in feeling like I don't know who I am anymore. I felt like my body wasn't mine. I felt like my time wasn't mine. All the things that I was considering was just laser focused on this child who I loved and who I was so thankful to have brought into the world. But it was like, where's Eunice though? What does Eunice like? And that's where knitting came in. That's where this craft gave me a place and a sense of identity apart from everywhere else. I'm actually the only knitter and crocheter in my family. So this is mine. It's not an identity that I hold on to in relation to someone else outside of me. This is here because I want to do it. This is here because I like it. And at a time in my life where I was feeling pulled every which way, at a time currently even still, where I feel obligated and a pull to be all things for all people, this craft is mine. It's for me. And I don't have to knit for anybody else. And it's very grounding for me. Even though I had Therapy by Craft on Instagram before my daughter was born, I really started posting a lot more, sharing my craft a lot more after she was born. The gift that gave me was a recognition that I have my own gravity. I have my own pull, and I'm thankful that I can play a role in this community because I, as Eunice, love this craft and I have this as mine. Yeah, so I'm very thankful. And I think as I'm sitting here reflecting on all the things I've shared with you, the biggest emotion that I feel right now is gratitude. I'm so thankful to have knitting. I'm so thankful for this community and for this craft. And I'm curious too, what has knitting done for you? I'd love to hear about it if you're so inclined to share in the comments below. But I'm curious, how has knitting been therapeutic for you? What has knitting given to you? And what exactly is it about knitting that is very comforting for you? And I don't know, can you relate to any of the things that I shared? I'd love to know if you are so inclined to share. And yeah, wherever you are this morning or whatever you have planned for the rest of the day or the rest of the week, I hope that you find moments of peace and you find moments of joy, and that this craft will serve you in one way or another. If you're curious about what I've been up to, what's been on my needles, please check out my podcast videos, and then join me next week to learn more about what I'm wearing now and some of the other great knitting plans that I have. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.